Hello and welcome to a Scan Pro Audio once again. It's Adam and I'm joined with a special guest, Steve, head of our Pro Audio division. As you can see, I've come in my Yamaha t-shirt today, all fired up to do some GNOS videos. And we had the opportunity to grab Steve because, as you can hear, Steve is an amazing guitar player. So I thought, why not? People have asked, we will deliver. We're going to talk about how to use a guitar in conjunction with your Pa5X. So what we've just done there, just an example of what we did, something really straightforward. We literally plugged in a guitar into the guitar input on the back of the keyboard. One top tip, you need to switch it on, because even though you plug it in and you turn it up, there is a secret button to switch it off. And that's the same for the microphone. So if you're a singer and you're using a microphone, you'll notice you plug it in, it doesn't work. The reason is, if you go to the main panel here, and along the buttons here, you'll notice that there's one for microphone, which is currently switched off. And then we have one for guitar, which is also currently switched off. So I've switched Steve off. If I press that button, Steve comes back in. Yeah? So that's basically how you switch on and off the guitar. So basically what we did, I actually think we should talk, Steve, about what we did. So we on your keyboard, as well as selecting sounds and styles and all the things that we used to with an arranger, you can also do the same thing with a guitar. So what we've done is you can see on the main panel here, there's one that says microphone and guitar. You can see here, we've got guitar, currently is called Steve Clean. That is a preset that we have made. And the way you can select the presets is simply go into the menu, into guitar preset, and you can see now this is the sound that we've made. We've selected, Steve selected a nice Vox amp, and you can adjust all the settings in there, just like when you're playing a standard guitar amp. You've got your volume, bass, middle and treble, presence, etc, etc. You can add an effect. We've added lots of different effects. We've added a compressor. We've added a tape echo. We've added a reverb. You've got a separate volume. Once you've set up your sound, you simply, top right-hand corner, you can then save that as a guitar preset and give it a name. So it's exactly the same as when you're creating a sound, whether you're creating a keyboard set, etc, etc. There are lots of presets in the instrument as standard. We go into here, just like the keyboard, they're split up into categories. So we've got overdrive sounds, clean sounds, distortion sounds, delay, modulation, effects, etc. All we did is took one of those presets and made it fit for that song. So once we've got our sound, we can see we've got some that we've made. Our own keyboard sets, guitar sets, whatever you want to call them, guitar presets as they're known in the instrument. You can then assign that to your normal songbook entries. So I'm going to show you very quickly how to do that, and then we'll play something else. So the way we do that, so we've now got our guitar sound. Switch it on, that's the sound that we had for that particular song, which was Besame Mucho, of course. What we can now do is we can make a registration for that. So all I did was samba, bit weird really, Besame Mucho, it's normally a rumba, begin, whatever. We thought we'd jazz it up a bit. We've done a nice Brazilian samba. We've selected the speed, and then we've picked 4 sounds. I only used one. I actually used an organ sound in that particular one. So you can see the sound that I selected in there. Once we've done that, we can then press book, just like the normal process. If you want us to go more in depth with that, check out the Songbook video that we did earlier. Give it a name, Besame Mucho, we've done. That's it, simple as that. But how did the keyboard know what sound to pick for the guitar? Well, if you move over to guitar, you also select the keyboard, the guitar sound that you want. So we selected Steve Clean. You can also, if you're finding after the fact that you wanted to maybe change it, like maybe I don't like that Steve Clean sound anymore, I want to change it, in your songbook entry edit screen, there is actually the preset is in there as well, guitar preset, and I can just simply change that at any time I wanted. So the great thing is, if you've got a mate that might play guitar, and it says guitar, but it's an input. if you can plug anything into that, you could plug a ukulele into that, you could plug in an acoustic guitar into that, anything that you want to route through these effects that you have, because it's very, very powerful. And I'm sure that you may or may not be aware, but Korg also own the Vox Corporation. So remember the Vox amps, made famous, of course, during the 60s with the Beatles, etc., etc. All those guitar amps and effects and reverb and all that kind of stuff is all built into this instrument, and you can select those at leisure. So all I did is we created a registration, we picked a style, we set the tempo, we selected a sound, we selected a guitar sound, as we'll call it, a guitar preset, Steve Clean. But the last thing is, I normally play Besame Mucho in D minor. That's the key I was taught in. I learned that. But as we've talked about on an earlier video, inside this keyboard are some chord sequences. So what I did is I simply, if you go into the chord sequence section here, and we open that up, you can see we've got all sorts of presets. We've got 12-bar blues, we've got loads of pop chord progressions and jazz and swing and all that. But if you go into jazz, you'll notice, as we talked about on the chord video that we did, you've got loads of presets. And one of those is in copy key, Besame Mucho in A minor, which of course Steve can jam along to. So all I did is load up the chord sequence for Besame Mucho, and away we go. And that is what we did at the beginning to create that preset. So there we go, nice and easy. So should we do another one? Right, let's look at what shall we do? Shall we do Samba Petit, that one? So again, what we've done this time, we've now selected a different preset. You can hear as I've changed the registration, Steve has now got a different sound. And again, because we've preset this earlier, it's remembered what I'm doing. So this is great if you want to just play along with your friend and store some presets. Your friend might want to bring a guitar over, and he might want to jam along with some of the songs that you've done already in your songbook. Simply go into your songbook, entry edit, into guitar, and you can see now it's actually Steve Distortion. So this is another preset that we've made. If you want to look at that in more detail, go to menu, guitar preset, you can see now it looks very different. So now we've got a classic tape echo, a reverb wet plate, overdrive, hyper gain, and wah pedals that we've selected. You can actually open up the screen and you can now see what we've got selected. The wah is currently off, and then there's the distortion pedal that Steve selected. And he's selected some drive levels and things like that in there. And then at the top, we've got a stereo gate. So that means that when Steve's not touching the guitar, you're not really hearing the guitar. It cuts out that nasty noise. So, shall we try this one? So, what have I got for this one? Oh, I've got an organ sound. We've got a rock cha-cha style. I've put another chord sequence in. And that's it, innit? I think. So, shall we try it? Here we go. go. Amazing. Thank you very much for that, Steve. So there you go. So you can have a lot of fun. You know, like I said, not only can you use a guitar, if you plug anything with an audio input, plug it in, and then you run it through the processor. So just to recap on how we do that, we go into main. If you want to go to mic and guitar, you can see what current preset you have for your microphone and your guitar. Now, the beauty is as well, one other thing that we didn't touch on, is now, say for example, we've set up this preset now, which has these different effects on that you can see that we showed earlier. I can independently mute these on and off if I wanted to do that as well. So it gives a bit of variation for when you are playing and you're playing live. The other thing is as well, if you are using a songbook entry, like we talked about with different sounds, you could actually have different songbook. You know, you can have one for the verse, one for the chorus, which changes the guitar preset. Or alternatively, like we've been doing, you can actually store in your sounds here and just literally change through the guitar sounds live if you wanted to do that as well. So if you wanted to select the presets just to kind of get you on your feet, get you going, you plug your guitar in, switch on the guitar. That's the most important thing. You activate that from the top here where it's main, and then you can see guitar in the screen. You can activate it on and off, and then we've got a dedicated volume for the guitar there as well. To select the sounds, we move through to mic and guitar, and simply where it says guitar, select that there. You can see we're currently in user because these are the presets that we've made. And then we go to factory. You can there's loads to go through in there, and they're all sounds just like you would select on your standard keyboard when you are playing through. Should we do another one to finish?
Sure.
Awesome. Right, well, thanks so much for joining. So that's a bit of an introduction into guitar mode. If you're using the guitar with it, please let us know in the comments below how you're finding it. If you're using a different instrument, let us know what instrument you're using. And if you'd like us to go more in depth with maybe plugging a guitar in, starting from clean, how to build up the perfect guitar sound, that's maybe a video we could do in the future. So for now, I'm Adam and this is Steve. What shall we finish on? Should we do like a 12-bar blues?
Yeah, let's do a jazz blues.
12-bar blues. We'll go for... what did we do before? We had that one, didn't we? That one. And what key are we doing it in, Steve? B flat. I think that's what we said, isn't it? Okay, here we go. A bit of a 12-bar blues to... I need to switch you back on, don't I? Nice. So what have we got? Just have a look at this preset that you've got before we end. So we've got a nice Vox amp, compressor, nice delay. Nice. Awesome. Sounds great. Here we go then. So some kind of 12-bar blues. We'll have an intro. Here we go.
Intro?
I don't know. Let's find one. So it'll probably count us in. Let's see what happens. It's all a bit of fun. See you next time. Here we go. 3, go. Awesome.